Shalawam, Yasharaal. This is Hadassah Bat Saiwan coming to you with the final part of this very big study called The Chariots of Yasharaal, and we're going to look at the woman. Now, if you have not watched the previous 3 parts of this series, I will encourage you to please watch part 1, 2, and 3 before you watch this last part in the series, for the mere fact that if you watch it out of sync, you're not going to get the understanding based on the scriptures and the excerpts I took from the Apocrypha and so on and so forth. You're not going to get it. All right? So you got to watch it from the very beginning. And the reason why I did it in parts, so it wouldn't be a big chunk to watch 6 or 8 hours of recording. Right? So please, please, please watch the previous parts in order to get the whole. Let's go into the lesson now. Now, the first thing we're going to look, when you see Revelation 12, now you know who the woman is that I'm speaking about. I know a lot of people have very various understandings, their understanding of who this woman is. So let's take a careful look at this woman. Now, before I get started, let me just say this. The entire Bible is written for only one people, Yasharaal. The northern and southern kingdom combined to make the 12 tribes. As it is right now, we are a divided people. We have 2 kingdoms. The northern kingdom, called the house of Yasharaal, and the southern kingdom, called the house of Yahweh. The northern kingdom is made up of 9.5 tribes, and the southern kingdom is made up of 2.5 tribes. I know in the scriptures it talks about 10 and 2, but remember the house of Lewi, which is the tribe of Lewi, speaking of the tribe of Levi, was not counted in the 12 tribes. But now they are counted in the 12 tribes, and Lewi made a decision that they were going to go half with the northern kingdom and the other half with the southern kingdom. They were divided. So that's the half that is found in both the kingdoms. It is the tribe of Lewi. All right? Now, knowing this, knowing that the whole Bible and the prophecies, everything that is written in the book is recorded for us, the 12 tribes. It is not recorded for the church or the churches. No, it's not. So anyone that is trying to fit their idea, their narrative, to make it fit within the confines of the church, you are misinformed. It is not for the church. It all has to do with Yasharaal. And I'm not talking about the people in the land currently. They are not Yasharaal. Yasharaal cannot go into their land just yet. It is filthy. It needs cleaning. This is why the Most High is going to bring judgments, and he's going to focus on part of his judgments on that land. He has to clean it up before Hamashiach comes to rule for his 1,000-year reign. So there are many people, and I've been silently watching all these different people with their romantic ideas of this woman being the church, and the son is the elect, and he's going to be caught up into the throne of the Most High. So romantic to think that the church is going to escape the Great Tribulation, right? But there's a lot of deception out there, and you don't really need to be a genius to figure it out. Once you know who the true people are, you know the book belongs to them. So everything and anything in the book pertains to them, no one else. This so-called church that they claim was created by the Roman Empire to deceive the multitude and inclusive of Yasharaal. But the world is deceived about this church or these churches because there are many denominations. They are deceived. Okay? So now that you know and you are informed about what the Bible is all about, the scriptures will point in that very same direction. And it will point to only one people, and to Hamashiach. So let's start Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pained to be delivered. Now, many people have assumed that this woman represents all 12 tribes of Yasharaal. There are many of our brethren out there teaching this, but it cannot be so because we are not a people. We were not a people when Hamashiach was born. Meaning that we were not one kingdom when Hamashiach was born. The northern kingdom was already scattered. Hello? So how could you change that very important fact to fit this image here, this imagery? The northern kingdom was already gone. He was born into the house of Yahweh, the southern kingdom. So that's who the woman has to represent. Cannot represent the 12 tribes. Don't be distracted by the 12 stars above her head. So let's read on, because I always speak ahead of myself and then I repeat. So they say that this woman represents the 12 tribes of Yasharaal, when in fact she is representing the southern kingdom. Yasharaal did not bring forth the man-child who is Hamashiach. Like I said, the northern kingdom was nowhere near the land. They were long gone. Long gone. All right? So it has to be the tribe of Yahweh. He is the lion of the tribe of Yahweh. That was the lineage that he came through. As Hamashiach is of the tribe of Yahweh. Just like I said. I'm repeating myself again. The 12 stars upon her head, this is what it does. What they're doing for us. Helps us to identify that she, the woman, the house of Yahweh, is of Yasharaal. Okay? And she is part of the 12 tribes. That's all it means. She is cloaked with the sun. That is the glory of the Most High. And the moon symbolizes our prophetic seasons, especially Hashabbath, which is the day of rest that we're looking forward to, which is the token of our covenant with Yahweh. Now, please bear in mind, I want you to seal one thing in your mind. Yahweh, Alahayam, is Alahayam of covenant. He wants to covenant with his people. And we must be in covenant with him to be his people. You cannot say, I'm not keeping covenant, I'm not keeping Shabbat, you're breaking the covenant. I'm not obeying his laws because I'm under grace, you're breaking his covenant. And then expect him to come and rescue you. or send his angels to rescue you. All right? He only deals with those who are in covenant with him. And when I say covenant, I'm speaking of the new covenant. The old covenant is done. I'm not talking about the essence of the covenant, the commands regarding the covenant. I'm not talking about Shabbat. I'm talking about the fact that under the old covenant, the blood of animals were used to atone the people first, to keep them, righteous before him, to cleanse them, atone them from their sins. And it was also used to seal the covenant between Yahweh and his people. Masha took the blood of the animals and sprinkled it upon the book of the covenant, which contained the commandments, and he sprinkled the people, and that sealed the deal. Masha officiated over this. He was the mediator. Now we have a new mediator and a new person to officiate, and we also have new blood, the blood of Hamashiach, because it is through his blood that we are atoned eternally now. The blood of animals were only temporary. It was only a temporary situation. Looking forward to the more permanent situation, the more permanent solution, that's the better word, in Hamashiach. So we have him and his blood, because he died for our sins, and his blood is now applied to us to cleanse us. And not only does it cleanse us, but it also officiates, or it governs the new covenant, because his blood now sprinkles us, is sprinkled upon us, sealing the deal now between us and Yahweh, him being the mediator and officiating over this. That's the new covenant. The new covenant has to do with blood. The blood of animals, that's done away with. We now have the blood of Hamashiach, that is the permanent solution that will keep us forever, as long as we keep his commandments, as long as we walk in his ways. This is the permanent and the only solution that we have to keep covenant with Yahweh. Anyone who denies Hamashiach, you bring yourself back under the old covenant, meaning that you will not have, you don't have the priesthood, you don't have the high priest, you don't have the tabernacle where his name, meaning the name of Yahweh, recorded there. You can't make it. He's the one who makes it. Go back to the scriptures and you see how he directed Masha of how to build the temple, and he gave the artisans the knowledge and the skills to make it. And then he came and hovered over the place as a cloud. That's his presence, that's his glory. The same thing when Shalawam built, meaning Solomon, built the tabernacle, the temple. His presence came in the form of a cloud, the cloud of glory, his glory. And he said, my name is recorded here, so that when you come now and you make your offerings, I will receive it. But if there's no tabernacle with his name recorded here on the earth, who are you sacrificing to? And where's the priesthood? Where's the high priest forever? There's only one high priest. And if that priesthood is no longer available, how are you going to make atonements for your sin? You're now facing the wrath of Yahweh. That's why we need the new covenant, because under the new covenant we have Hamashiach, who has redeemed us to the Father through his shed blood on the stake. And now we can be under the new covenant. We don't need to wait till we go into a wilderness. That's all false theology. We don't have to do anything except confess our sins and believe in Hamashiach and walk in the commandments of the Most High. Then you'll be able to walk in the commandments of the Most High. Right? Now, these things are important, and I find myself repeating them because they are so vitally important for us to understand and to know that there's only one way into the kingdom. Only one way. So let's go on. These are the feast days that point to who? Hamashiach. All the feast days point to him. His first coming and his second coming to be fulfilled. So he was already here in the flesh. I know there are many people, even of our brethren, trying to disclaim Hamashiach. They disclaim the New Testament. They don't want anything to do with the New Testament. They claim it was written by a man. And so, yes, of course it was written by a man. It was written by several men, actually. Under the influence of the Ruach HaKodesh. Just like the Old Testament. Who do you think wrote the Old Testament? Men that were under the influence of Allah-Hayam. Of Allah-Hayam. So, if you're going to say, well, the New Testament was written by a man and I'm only going to stick to the Old Testament, then you are very much misinformed. You don't understand the word. You don't understand. Yes, there are certain books that I myself put aside. For example, and I'm going off the path here for a bit, but I need to say this. All the letters of Paul, I've put aside. Those are the only books that I've put aside. Because his letters are in conflict with the commandments and the laws. And anything or anyone that is bringing conflict, then I just put it aside. And I have put him aside for a good few years now, and up to now, the Ruach HaKodesh has not told me to go back and pick him up. I used to be a believer. When I say believer, I used to study from the books of Paul. And then I just keep getting this question mark in my spirit, like, why is he saying this and the scriptures in the Old Testament says that? There's a conflict. And I prayed and asked the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, help me to reconcile this. And then one day he said, because it cannot be reconciled. Put it aside. Okay. And since I've put him and his letters aside, now the scriptures all read in harmony with each other. Yes, of course, we know that the powers that be that have been controlling our books and our history books for so many generations have changed this and that and names and seasons and whatnots. We know that. But the Ruach HaKodesh is the one who will help you to sift out the lies so that you are left with just the truth. But you can't do that with Paul's epistles. No, you can't. You can't. When you sift it, all of it needs to be thrown out. Right? All right, so let's move on. Verse 5 of the same chapter. And she, the woman, brought forth a man-child who was to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto Allah-Hayam and to his throne. There's only one throne. This is not an area where you're going to have thrones. So, and then I beg to ask, if you're saying that it's meant for his elect, who are his elect? Are you talking about the 144,000? I don't think so. When you have people that are not our people trying to teach the Bible, which was not written for them, then they'll come up with all these foolish theologies. When you have brethren who are not under the new covenant and believe in Hamashiach, obviously they're not going to be led by the Ruach HaKodesh. And they too will be in great conflict and teaching heresies. Okay? This is what's been happening today. There are many people out there, and yes, they may be of our lineage, but they do not have the Ruach HaKodesh teaching them and leading them in the Word, revealing the truth in the Word. They're going to other people's books, other people's websites, other people's channels, and they're gleaning here, there, and putting it together and creating their own lesson. Okay. Revelation 19, verse 15. And out of his mouth, whose mouth? This is Hamashiach, who is sitting on the white horse. And he's coming with his saints. And he goes with a sharp sword that with it he should smite who? The nations. The Gentiles. And he shall what? Rule them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Shaddai, who is the Almighty Elohim. And when he's ruling, when you think of iron, you think of something that is very strong. You think of power. You think of strength. And that rod is like a scepter. So he's coming as a king with strength and with power. There's only one person that rules with a rod of iron, and that is Hamashiach. And he gives this rod of iron only to those who overcome. The church of, or the congregation, or I rather say assembly of Thyatira, they were given the rod of iron if they overcome, because he will give them power over the nations. Now this is available for all 12 tribes. Don't think it's only for one group of people. When we all overcome and we all come together with Hamashiach during the 1,000 year reign here on the earth, we will all rule with him. Yes, we are. Rule over who? The other nations. There will still be other nations on the earth. Gentile nations. It's during this time that Satan is locked up in the abyss. And he's shut up. So there's going to be 1,000 years of peace on the earth. Revelation 12 verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of Elohim, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And that works out to 3.5 years. Now we go down to verse 13 to 17. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman who brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, and I have that on the line for a reason, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place. So there's a place prepared for her. Into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished, where she is fed for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. So she's being taken away to preserve her from the dragon. And the serpent, verse 15, cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman. So there's going to be a lot of upheaval on the earth. Does that sound familiar to you? In the last 2 years, a lot of upheaval, civil unrest, wars and rumors of wars. Is directed at the woman. Everything that's been happening in the last 2 years has been directed at us, but secretly camouflaged. That he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. He wanted the woman to be consumed in all the upheaval that he has created in the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years coming now. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So what happened as a result of all the different upheavals? People rose up. People rose up and said, no, we're not taking this anymore. People started protesting. People started marching. People started riding in their trucks, in their tractors, on their horses. People started protesting. And this was the result of what the dragon had done previously, trying to target the woman, which we know is the southern kingdom of Yahweh. And the dragon, verse 17, was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Now, a lot of people look at that and think, oh, remnant of her seed. Who is this remnant and who is this seed? Right? But the seed is just merely those that were left. When you think of remnant, you're talking about those that were left, who keep the commandments of Elohim and have the testimony of Yahweh HaMashiach. No, here's the issue. Here's the problem. Here's what's going to happen. And I've said this before, either in earlier slides or maybe in also in other videos. Look at what happened with the flood that came during the time of Noah, who's Noah. Once that ark was closed, Yahweh himself sealed it so that no one can open it. And once that ark was sealed, then he allowed the rains and the waters to fall upon the earth. Same thing is going to happen again, but this time when Elohim sends his chariots, they will only pick up those people that are ready to be taken. If you're not in right standing with Hamashiach, you're not going to make it. If you're not keeping his commandments, you're not going to make it. If you're still living like a Gentile in Babylon, you're not going to make it. However, after we're taken, then there will be some here that will suddenly wake up and realize, hey, we had it wrong. There will be a remnant that will wake up. And what do you think is going to happen to them? And I've said this before. It is better to die in righteousness than to perish in your own sins, than to perish as a rebel Because when you do perish as a rebel, there's no second chance for you to come back. You will perish and you will go into the lake of fire as a rebel. But if you repent because you have followed the wrong teachings or had the wrong or you misunderstood, and out of rebellion you refuse to listen to the truth, but then suddenly you realize, oh, I was wrong. Forgive me, Father. There's only one way out, and that's through death. Okay? So you either die in righteousness or you perish in sin. Perish as a rebel, and you end up in the lake of fire. When you die in righteousness, when you are martyred, because you will be martyred, you'll be killed for your testimony in Hamashiach, because the dragon is going to come after you. Count it worthy to die in righteousness, because you will have a second chance to live again in the 1,000-year reign. Remember what happens in the fifth seal. Who are those people under the altar? Our brethren that were slaughtered for their testimony of Hamashiach. They're the ones who refused to take the mark. So this is what's going to happen. That's why it says he is going to come and make war with the remnant of her seed. Remember, and that word seed means her tribe, her people, the southern kingdom, the ones that were left behind. That suddenly wake up and like, oh my goodness, I've been left behind. I was wrong. Do not be dismayed, because you still have another chance. There will be some that will think, okay, well, if the northern kingdom is going into the wilderness, I will go ahead. I will go with them because they will be protected. Not all will be protected. Only the remnant, the righteous remnant, will be protected. Because as they go through the wilderness, they'll be sifted. He's going to strike out and strike down the rebels. He says so in the scriptures. Only the redeemed will walk there. So if you think that you could hitch a ride with them, think again. He is not bringing the two kingdoms together yet. That's why he's dealing with us individually. He's dealing with the southern kingdom first, and then he will turn his attention to the northern kingdom. And I'm working on a video called The Wilderness, actually the second Exodus and the Wilderness, to explain how this is going to happen. But you will not be allowed to hitch your wagon to the northern kingdom's star. No, you're not. You're not going to be able to hitch your wagon to them. No, you will not. There's enmity between us. And until he sift us and then bring us together himself, he will not allow the one tribe to connect with the other. Because they'll turn around and kill you. The rebels in that group will turn around and kill you. It's like, what are you doing here? All right, we have Satan and his fallen angels roaming the earth along with all the devils and demons. You don't think that they will use them to kill you? Of course he will. There's going to be a slaughtering of our people because of rebellion. All you need to do is go online and watch these people in their garb. They call themselves Hebrew Israelites, all these camps with all these different teachings. And you will see for yourself that these are the rebels. A lot of them, I would say the greater majority of them, are plants. They're not our people. They look like us, but they're not our people. And they've been placed there to deceive you, to lead you astray. But the ones that have a keen interest in the Most High, He will allow His Ruach HaKodesh to guide you into all truth. Stay out of these groups. They're trouble. They are trouble. Okay, let's move on. The woman in both allegories is the southern kingdom of Yahweh, who bore the man-child, who is Hamashiach. Now, when the woman fled from the dragon, and we know that this is Satan before he is incarnate as the anti-Mashiach, because this is all spiritual warfare going on here, people. Spiritual warfare. She's escaping from danger into a place prepared for her. And I think people hear the word wilderness and they think, okay, that means that we will all go into the wilderness. But I believe that word has been planted there. Yes, I do. They've done a lot of changes in the Bible. Why not? Keep us thinking, oh yeah, we're all going to go into the wilderness together. No, we're not. Right? And that's just one word. Now, how can it be a wilderness like a desert when she is fed there for 42 months, 3.5 years? We're going to look at that 42 months as well. A wilderness is typically a desolate place lacking food and water, yet Yawachanan, which is John, who is John, said that it is a place prepared for her. Just like Hamashiach said, I'll go to prepare a place for you. Is he going to find a wilderness and put us there where we have to endure what our forefathers endured? No, that is done for us. The northern kingdom has to go through that, but he said he's going to make a way in the wilderness and he's going to give them streams of water and all that wonderful stuff, right? They're not going to suffer the way how their forefathers suffered. No, not that, not again. No. He said, I'm going to do a new thing. So what he did before, he's not going to repeat a second time. He's not bringing out all the rebels and feeding them because they're ungrateful anyway. Anyways, where she's nourished for that time, it is a place prepared for her where she is nourished during that time. Therefore, this is not a desolate place like one can imagine, but a place with provisions. What will be the purpose of him putting us in a wilderness for 3.5 years? What the purpose that our forefathers went into the wilderness is because they came out of Matzarayim, Egypt, Goshen, right? And they were filled with idolatry. Filled. They were so filled with idolatry that when that when Masha took too long to come down the mountain, even though they were supposed to go up, but they weren't ready to get rid of their idolatry. They wanted Masha to go up and come back and tell them what to do. And they felt that Masha was taking too long. So they went to Ahawaran, which is Aaron, and said, make us gods, plural, that we may worship them. And they brought the gold, and he carved out a golden calf. One. A golden calf to represent their gods that brought them out of Goshen, that brought them across the Red Sea. All these things that they attributed to this golden calf. And it proved the point that the Most High was saying that they are rebels. They are stiff-necked. But I went into more detail about that I have gone into more detail about that in the second Exodus, right? But this is what our forefathers have done in the wilderness. And it had to be done that way because they needed to know that they have idolatry. And every time Masha would say to them, your hearts, you're stiff-necked people. Your hearts are hardened. You need to circumcise your hearts. They didn't get it. They saw the miracles. They got manna from heaven, water from a rock. He made the bitter water sweet. But still, they didn't get it. And they still acted like the harlots. The ones that were in, the same way how they lived in Matzarayim was how they were living in the wilderness. They never got past the idolatry. The idolatry was there through and through. Even though they said to Masha, all that Yahweh said that we will, all Yahweh said to do, we will do. They said it 3-4 times. That they will obey his commandments. That they will not worship other idols. They will not bow down to idols. And yet, the day that Masha did not come back from the mountain, they felt that he was too long gone. And I'm sure that they could see the lightnings and the cloud and the fire on the mountain. So he was up there having a picnic. He was up there collecting all the commandments and everything that they needed so that they can be righteous and holy as a people, so that Hamashiach and Yahweh can come and dwell in their midst. Because he cannot come to dwell in the midst of a people with unclean lips and with idolatry in their hearts. So he gave them the commandments and the rituals and the sacrifices to atone them so that he can come and dwell in their midst. Even though it was a temporary measure. So going forward now to the woman, when she goes, if she was supposed to be going into the wilderness, into a wilderness, what would be the purpose of her going there? Because if he is regathering only the righteous remnant, there's nothing more that we need to prove. We don't need to prove our righteousness anymore. He already knows that we are the righteous remnant. That's why we are taken. So that word wilderness does not fit with the southern kingdom. It fits with the northern kingdom. But I believe, and I believe this with 100% of my heart, that it was thrown in there to throw us off. We know that the southern kingdom is going into the garden of Odan. The garden of Odan is not a wilderness. It is filled with trees of all kinds bearing fruits. But that is in the other parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3 goes into more details about that. This is dealing with the woman now. And who is this woman? Because people do not understand that the woman is the southern kingdom. So let's go back to what I have written here. In the following verse 14, the woman is given wings like a great eagle that she might fly into the wilderness. Now, this is the one time that wings are given to a person. The woman got wings and took flight, which is symbolic of being airborne, being lifted up. All right? Could the word wilderness be added here for malicious reasons to throw us off? Of course it was. To paint an idea in our heads, making it seem impossible to connect the dots between the scriptures, yet Al-Hayyam have left enough clues to help us to know and understand the truth, even if a word is out of place. That's how we have to look at the scriptures. If one word seems out of place, it's okay, take it out, but he will bring the precepts. There are precepts that will connect the dots and help you to understand and solidify the truth. Don't let that one word throw you off. The woman, the house of Yahweh, is going to flee by means of angelic and divine intervention, because we know that the angels are going to be the ones riding the chariots. And that is none other than, I just said it, the chariots. Yahweh have used the allegory of angels' wings when he was describing the manner in which he delivered our forefathers from bondage in Matzarayim. Shalawam, which is the book of Exodus, chapter 19, verse 4. You have seen what I did unto Matzarayim, and how I bore you, 12 tribes, on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. As we remember the account of the first Exodus from Matzarayim, the children of Yasharaal did not fly anywhere. No, they did not, but they fled. However, the eagle's wings denotes power, strength, and speed, which if you have studied about eagles, then you will realize the comparison that Al-Hayyam is wanting us to understand. Al-Hayyam used his mighty acts that were his judgments against Matzarayim, helping the children of Yasharaal to exodus that land. He also became a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night to protect the children of Yasharaal when they left Matzarayim. Now all these things and more he had done to ensure their safety, the safety of his people, until they reach his designated destination. This was divine intervention. That's why he used the term eagle's wings. I bore you on eagle's wings. I myself delivered you. He used his pillar of fire that night. It was the pillar of cloud, because the armies of Matzarayim decided, hey, what did we do? We need to get those slaves back. So they went after the children of Yasharaal, and the pillar of cloud came between them, the children of Yasharaal, and the Egyptians. And no matter how hard they rode, they could not overtake the children of Yasharaal. Habanai Yasharaal. Now, I could be slightly mistaken. It could be the pillar of fire or the pillar of cloud. I have to go back and look at that story again. Regardless, it was a pillar of either fire or cloud that separated the two, so that the children of Yasharaal, they were on foot with their babies and their animals, so they couldn't be going that fast. Yet Pharaoh, and his chariots, they were riding horses with chariots. They were riding hard, and they still could not catch up. Now tell me if that wasn't divine intervention. He had them, I call it, they were on a treadmill. A treadmill. They were riding hard on a treadmill. So they were going and going and going and going, but they were going nowhere. The children of Yasharaal, they were going, but they were going somewhere. And he waited until the children of Yasharaal crossed the Red Sea. Then he released the chariots of Pharaoh and his army. And we know what happened after that. Divine intervention. Right? This is not natural. This is not normal. So when you see or hear about eagle's wings, think of divine intervention. And he used divine intervention to deliver our forefathers from their bondage. And he's going to do it again with the southern kingdom. Then he's going to do it again with the northern kingdom. He is not done with us. He's never been done with us. Where the glory and the very presence of Allah-Hayam came to help this was the divine intervention where the glory, the very presence of Allah-Hayam came to help his chosen people to be released from the enslavement. And this he will do again, but this time the woman is given the wings of an eagle that she might fly to her place. She's going to fly. She was given wings to fly to a place prepared for her. Now we have two examples of people being taken into the heavens by fiery chariots. We have Hanawak and Alaya. Therefore we know that these fiery chariots exist. They've been seen by our forefathers. The fire indicated the glory of Allah-Hayam. Right? Yeah, Yawakanan also told us that the woman will be fed there for 3.5 years. So now you want to take a look at that. Right? Because there's something a little off. Right? And here's why. Yawakanan gave more information in verse 14 regarding how the woman was going into the wilderness. And I have that in quotation marks. But he also repeated the 3.5 years, calling it times and half a time, which many people have deduced that it is also equal to 3.5 years. Okay, so now let's put, excuse me, let's put this all together. These 3.5 years have to do with Danayals, which is Daniel, prophecy. Daniel's prophecy about the last 7 years before the millennial reign of Hamashiach on the earth. And it all has to do with the 70 weeks, 69, then 62, and then the last 7 years. Okay? So we know what day this is. This is coming on to the very end where when Hamashiach will come again to rule on this earth for the 1,000 year reign, bringing it to the 7,000th year from the time of creation until that time. All right? But that's another topic for another time. I've done another message about the millennial reign and it explains all of that. So you can go there and see that. But right now we're focusing on these 3.5 years and 3.5 years that Yawachanan is speaking about in 2 different verses. Okay, so it has to do with Danayaal's prophecy about the last 7 years before the millennial reign of Hamashiach on the earth. If Allah-Hayam is going to remove the woman, if he's going to remove us, okay, to a place of safety, why would he keep her there for only 3.5 years? Why? Then it means that either she spends the first half of the 7 years there or the latter half of the 7 years in the wilderness. If she is there, the second half of the 3.5 years, of the 7 years, the latter half, then it means that she will have to go through some of the tribulation. Right now we're not in the tribulation. We are in the birth pangs. But the woman will flee before the tribulation. She's out of here. Okay, let's go on. Remember, she's escaping the dragon and she's being kept from him. Why then would Abba keep her only for half the time? Okay, so if it's the first 3.5 years and she escapes the 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 seven trumpets. All right. What happens after those 3.5 years? Does she come back? Will Hamashiach, will Allah Hayam bring her back to the earth? Doesn't make any sense. And where will she go? She can't go in the land yet, because the northern kingdom will be there. And he's not ready to bring us together until the millennial reign. And the millennial reign is not going to happen until the ending of the 7-year final cycle. So there's a little bit of conflict there, and it's not Yehoachanan's fault. I'm telling you right off the bat, it is not his fault. This was done purposefully. Okay? Now listen to what makes sense. It makes more sense that she is there for the entire 7-year period, as Yehoachanan had indicated. He indicated it in the first verse, then he indicated it again in the next verse, verse 14. All right? Makes sense that it's supposed to be 7 years in total. Makes more sense. Because at the ending of those 7 years, when Hamashiach comes back, he's going to come back. He's going to bring us back with him. And establish us in the land, and then he will bring the two together. Rather than to think it as a repeat of the 3.5 years, see it as double 3.5 years, which equals 7. Now, if you don't believe that, well, there's nothing more I can say to convince you. You're free to disagree. We don't know when the final 7 years will begin, as it is not based on a Gregorian clock, but rather Yahweh's prophetic clock. So let me just say, even though you hear 7 years, doesn't mean it's going to be 7 years according to our time. There are 7 prophetic years. Prophetic years are different from actual years. Understand that. His prophetic clock is triggered only when certain events have taken place and nothing goes outside the order that he has established. Therefore, the last 7 years will only begin when certain events take place. But then that's another lesson for another time, right? The woman will not be here for the start of the 7-year cycle. That is very evident, because the rise of the incarnate anti-Mashiach is the beginning of this cycle. He is already here, and his presence is felt very strongly, but he is not incarnate yet, meaning he's not in physical form yet. Before the anti-Mashiach is revealed, his system, his beast system, must be revealed, and it will be governing the entire world. Then there must be an economic collapse worldwide that will seem that all is finished until a charismatic leader will step forth, which is the anti-Mashiach, to make the economy strong again. That's the head that was wounded. Some people misunderstand that the 7-headed beast has to do with people. It has nothing to do with people. It has to do with systems within the governments, within the government systems, right? We have the beast system, and within the beast system there's seven tiers that rule that system, and those 7 tiers rule the people, right? We have religion, we have money, we have economy, and so on and so forth. But that's a lesson again for another time. So the one head that was wounded, right, was the economy in the world, the economies that are worldwide. And we are seeing it happening right now. And it's the one thing that the people will call for help. Help us. Give us a leader that can fix this problem with our economies. Economies are failing right now, all around the world. So there's going to be a worldwide economic collapse. And this charismatic leader is going to step forth, and he is none other than the anti-Messiah, who will bring about, he will make the economy strong again due to his swift action and ingenious plan of action. The head is going to live again. The economy is going to be fruitful again. And people are going to hail him as Savior. He just saved the world. The war to evict Satan and his fallen angels from their abode in the second heaven has already been taken place. People are still waiting for that war in heaven to take place. It had taken place more than 2 years ago. Let's read on. They are no longer allowed in the heavenly realm, and now they roam on the earth. The war in the heavens took place more than 2 years ago. You can coincide it with the start of the pandemic. And if you doubt me, go back. Google, go back more than 2.5 years ago. Actually around March 2020. And Google any country that was open for tourism and tell me what you come up with. Everything was redded out. I know, because I was checking every single day for a country to open up. There's no time in history that every country was in sync with each other to pull off something of this magnitude. This is the beast system in operation. It has not officially risen in the sense that it is in your face telling you that yes, we are here. But we see the actions of this beast system. They're not official yet. They're not saying, hey, this is the new world order here. This is the new world system. No, they're not saying that. But you see the evidence of them of their performance. Every country is in sync with each other as far as the mandates. Some more harsh than the others, or harsher than others. Right? This is the beast system in action. And soon it will make itself official. And 2 years when this started, late 2018, that's when the angels were cast, the fallen angels, and Satan was cast out of the heavens. They are not allowed up there anymore. They're down here and they're wreaking havoc. That's why you're seeing so much evil coming up to the surface. Things that you would not have thought that could exist is happening. And it is existing. The things that people are doing and saying. It is unbelievable. I have been around for quite some time, and I'm telling you, 20, 30 years ago, not meaning to timestamp myself, but 20, 30 years ago, you would not have heard of any of these things happening and nobody being held accountable. These people that call themselves leaders not being held accountable would not happen. But now the correct leadership is in place. Everything, all the people that need to pull this thing off are in place. Not only are the people in place, but the artificial intelligence is also in place. The technology is in place. So all they're waiting for now, because they can't do anything unless the Most High give them permission to. They would love to start their business by tomorrow or yesterday. But the Father has a timing for everything. Satan does not have a say in what the Most High wants to do. He has to obey. Have you noticed how diabolical events that are taking place all around the world, and they're all taking place at the same time? Have you noticed that? I don't understand why parents still have their children in schools. Oh yeah, I have to go to work and I have to do this. That's just an excuse. I remember when the pandemic first happened and everything was locked down, including the schools, and parents were stuck at home with their own children. Many of them were going crazy, going nuts, because they weren't used to having their children around that length of time, and the children were driving them crazy. They don't know how to parent. The children parent them. And they were going crazy. I know this for a fact because I was involved in that arena. And people were complaining. Oh, they can't wait for the schools to open up. Oh, being a parent is such hard work. I've had a parent tell me one time that she preferred to go to work than to stay home and parent her child. And she only had one at the time. She went and had a second one. I don't understand why these people want children if they don't want to parent them. But she feels more comfortable at work doing her job than to be a parent at home being a mom. And some fathers are like that too. They want to be absent. They just want to be there to supply the needs. And for some women, that's good enough for them. And that's why you have children being wayward, and they don't have control over the children. But I digress. And in the meantime, you send your children to school, and you have the teachers that belong to the alphabet group, those colorful creatures, teaching your children that they don't necessarily have to agree with the gender they're born with. I am so glad that I don't have any children. I'm glad. I wasn't always glad, but I can tell you for the last couple of years, I am very glad I didn't have any children. I do pity people that do have children and grandchildren that have to go through this stuff. But this now is a time for you to decide whose side are you going to stand on. Are you going to stand on the side of righteousness, or are you going to stand on the side of unrighteousness? For what purpose? To make $1? To keep a mortgage going? You're going to lose everything anyway. Why not sell out now that you can and get out? Put everything in the hands of the Most High. Said, I want to worship you and you alone. What did Masha tell Parao? Let my people go that they may come and do what? Worship me in the wilderness. The Most High is calling out his people. He said, come out from amongst them. And people are still stuck in the system and complaining. That I don't understand. Complaining that their children are subjected to this. Complaining that this is happening. Complaining that is happening. But yet they want to hang in there, hoping that things are going to turn around. Things are not going to turn around. These are the last days. So either you make it or you're lost. Lost to destruction. And these devils are brainwashing the children, because that's how Satan works. He works on the younger or the youngest generation. Once you have them brainwashed, when they become adults, then they're easy peasy in his hands. He can do with them whatever he wishes. They're not going to question anything. They're just going to go along with it all. That's why he had to wait out our parents and grandparents, because they were when I say rebels, I mean they will rebel against his tactics, his plots. They'd be the ones questioning, hey, what's going on here? Those kind of rebels are acceptable. When you rebel against Satan and his system, that is acceptable. But not against the Most High. Seriously. Have you noticed how evil people have become, and there are no authorities to discipline these people no matter how heinous their crimes are? I just heard about what's going on in a state in America. How the police now, their job was to protect the innocent. Now the innocent people have no protection. And I will say no more. These things are happening. There are bills and laws being passed while we are sleeping. And the only time we know that these things are passed is when they make an announcement. And by the time they make the announcements, it's already been passed. And you ask yourself this question: when did this happen? Why am I now hearing about this? Because you were sleeping. While you're sleeping, the devils are up and busy signing this and bringing this into enacting this law and doing this and doing that. And then all they need to do is come and announce, this is what we're going to be doing from here on, people. You have no say in it. You have no say. But I digress. Now this is because, going back to what I have written here, this is because I'm talking about the heinous crimes and all that stuff. This is because Satan is here in full form along with his fallen angels, and there are no boundaries to the evils that they will do. This is supposed to make us feel uneasy. If you're a true believer of the offspring of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, if you're one of the brethren, this must make you feel so uncomfortable that you need to get out. Right? Because it is intended for that purpose. The discomfort is there to cause you to want to flee. But if you're still trying to make a nest in Babylon, then you will die in Babylon. You're supposed to come out and get yourselves ready. But let me tell you something. Time is drawing very, very close, and some people are still stuck with a decision. Should I or should I not? All right, you sit there. Just as in the days of Noah and in the days of Lot, right? These things were happening. We know what happened in those days. I don't need to bring to memory those stories, but there was a lot of wickedness. So much so that the Father first sent water in the form of floods, and then he sent fire. And this time around, he's going to send more fire. This earth needs to be purged, cleansed from all the wickedness. But there's yet more to come. If you think you've seen it all, stick around and you're going to see a lot more. I don't intend to stick around. All that you have seen occurring with the restrictions and the mandates are done to capture the woman before she's rescued. They know this is going to happen. The only people that don't know this is going to happen is our people. Why do you think they have these restrictions? To stop us from traveling? Huh? All right. The thing is, they have an idea of her time of deliverance, but they cannot pinpoint the exact hour in which she will be fleeing. Satan took all, well, I shouldn't say all, but he took most of our books. He knows what's going to happen better than we do. And that's why he has all these different things in place. And when the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, has awakened some of us to show us and to tell us, to warn the people, they're going to look at us and say, man, she's crazy. She's nuts. She don't know what she's talking about. That's all right. You sit there and you wait for a wilderness. You sit there and you wait for the aliens to come and get you. Because there's some of our people that are believing that aliens are going to come and get them. I said, well, sit there and you wait for those aliens to come. You'll be sitting and waiting for a very long time. Ain't no aliens but fallen angels. No such thing. These people are well aware of what is about to take place, and they are watching the sky through a very powerful telescope that they call Lucifer. They're watching the skies. Look at the things that they've been doing for the last however many years to try to break through the dome. They are also patrolling the upper atmosphere, releasing their rockets and their weaponry, trying to penetrate the dome above. Anyone think that we are on a spinning ball? You need to go back and read the scriptures again. There are no corners on the globe. And if you look up at the sky, you will see the dome. Right? They're trying to thwart our deliverance. Very soon you will see these activities escalating. They're using the ruse of wars to do these things without speculations from the people. They're releasing rockets. People are seeing these strange lights hovering around because they're waiting. Because they're hoping to somehow, maybe they want to detonate us or blow us out of the sky, whatever the case may be. I don't know. These people, they know what's coming and they want to stop us. Because Satan knows that once we are off this earth, that now he's going to get he's going to get what's coming to him. His end is literally very near. The wars also distract the minds of people, making them afraid of nuclear attacks. And let me tell you, there's no such thing as nuclear weapons. There is no such thing as nuclear weapons. It's all Hollywood garbage. If they had them, they would have used them a long time ago. That thing that happened in Chernobyl, the nuclear reactor that happened in Japan because of the tsunami. No, there were no such thing. There are no such things as nuclear reactors because there's no nuclear technology, nuclear weapons. These are their lies. They wanted to get those people out of the Chernobyl area. Right now, if you go there, you're going to see animals still living there. They should have at least 5 limbs if they had nuclear fallout in that area. But the animals all look normal. The plants and the trees and everything all look normal. If anything, the animals should be affected with deformities, because that's what that's what they tell us, that nuclear fallout will cause death and deformities in children. There's no such thing as nuclear attack. And then people will go to the book of Zechariah, I believe it's chapter 14, when our enemies will stand where they are with their horses and their eyeballs will melt and in their sockets and stuff, and they call that nuclear weaponry. When in fact it is Hamashiach that does this thing against them. What do you think he needs the earth's weaponry to destroy these wicked people? And if they're riding horses, what kind of nuclear weaponry could they possibly have? Huh? If they have to ride horses, we don't see people riding horses right now because they have cars. And they're going to do away with gasoline cars and make it electric cars. And then pretty soon they're going to do away with electric cars and make people go back to riding horse and cart. And they themselves too will have no choice, because the massive earthquake that is going to hit this earth is going to destroy a lot of their technology. And that's why they're going to have to go back to riding horses. If you notice in the book of Revelation, they weren't riding any fancy vehicles. They were all riding horses. Well, some of them were creatures, but also some of them were horses. And that's how you know this nuclear garbage is just hoax. You hear a certain country threatening other countries. Okay, why haven't you done it yet? Because it is all a joke. It's all a hoax to bring fear upon the minds of people. That's why they have the Hollywood productions to show you, oh, how this will happen if there's such a thing as a nuclear attack and all these different things. Honestly, people, wake up. Now, while at the same time making people afraid of the nuclear attacks, and while at the same time there's talk about alien activities seen, oh yeah, we're seeing flying saucers, we're seeing all these different lights in the sky. Fallen angels, people, they've been cast down to the earth. Is this how they're going to explain the chariots coming from our people? Food for thought. Okay? When we are taken, they're going to say aliens took us. Right? All right. Revelation 12 from verse 7 to 14. And there was a war in heaven. Yasharaal, which is Michael, and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. How can they? Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. All deception comes from Satan, okay, and his fallen angels. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of Allah Hayana, our Allah Hayam, and the power of his Mashiach. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down. That's who he is. That's what his name means. which accused him before Allah day and night. So he used to go up to heaven to accuse us before the Father, and he was permitted until now. He is permanently blocked. He cannot go up into the heavens anymore. So now he's roaming the earth, and we are seeing the evidence of him roaming the earth. Very clear evidence. We don't need to look very hard to see it. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. You cannot be afraid of death in these days, my friends. If you are afraid of death, you have a problem. You have a big situation going on. Because if you are afraid of death, then there's a problem with your relationship with the Most High. All right? If you are in right standing with the Most High, you will rejoice at the thought of meeting him again, or being in his presence. So the fear of death will not overwhelm you. You'll be rejoicing. But people are afraid of dying because they are not in a right relationship with the Most High. There's something going on there. You need to go and address that and get that figured out, get that fixed, because when Satan comes as the anti-Messiah and you're placed, there's a decision placed before you. Life or death. Submit to me and you live. You resist me and you die. What choice will you make? A lot of people that say that they love the Heavenly Father will justify it by saying, well, he's not going to want me to die. He's not going to want me to starve to death. So I am going only for a season, submit to the system and to the new government. Oh yeah. There are people that will do that and thinking that they're doing the right thing too. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. Woe to us. He's down here. For the devil is come down to you having what? Great wrath. Why is he angry? Because he knows his time is short. And when the dragon saw that he was cast down to the earth, this is when he is going to persecute the woman. When he is cast down to the earth. So this is happening as we speak. He persecuted the woman who brought forth a man child. So Yawachanan saw it in the heavens and now it's manifesting on the earth. And I'm telling you, since the early 2020, the beginning of 2020, that was the beginning of the woman being persecuted. They were trying to stop her from fleeing. And then they were making up excuses and say it's because of these people of the dark persuasion that these diseases are out here. All right. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. Do angels in heaven need salvation? No, they do not. So salvation is for Yasharaal. Therefore, this message of the angel was not for the other angels. The rejoicing is meant for the angels. Yes, they're rejoicing because they didn't care to see Satan and his fallen angels coming up to heaven day after day. They were not, I'm sure they were not happy, right? Because they had to be on guard. They're the devils. And we know how they've been wanting to take over the heavens. So now they're cast down, they're blocked, they're no longer allowed. The Most High has shut them off. They can now rejoice and say, hey, good. They're gone. We don't ever have to see them again. Right? The rejoicing is meant from the angels in heaven. When he said, and another reason why they're rejoicing, because they too are grieved about all the evil that's going on in this world. They too want to see the ending of evil. They want things to be restored. They want righteousness to be restored. They want holiness to be restored. So not only us on the earth that is feeling or being grieved in our spirit about the evil, the wickedness that's around us. They in heaven, they're also grieving. They're not happy. That's why they said here, rejoice, you heaven. Rejoice, because they now see the ending of this dark tunnel. They can see the light at the end of this dark tunnel. They know that Satan and his fallen angels and the devils and the demons and the unclean spirits and all the wickedness and hell and death and the grave, all of that is going to be removed permanently. So that's why they're rejoicing. When he said, therefore rejoice you heavens, it's also meant for those who are already in the heavens, because they are believers there. Believe me, there are who have died, and there are believers who are still alive, dwelling in the heavens, speaking of Hanawak and Alaya. And there will be more people to come who will be alive to dwell in the heavens. And speaking of the third heaven, and that is the woman. That's where the woman is fleeing to. We're leaving this earth to go and dwell in the third heavens. That's where the Garden of Odan is. He's bringing us back into the garden. Right? And the woman is called the southern kingdom of Yahawada. We have to go to take the place of Hanawak and Alaya, as they will be leaving the Garden of Odan soon to finish their ministry here on the earth. They're going to come back as the two witnesses. They have a job to do in our land called Yasharaal. They have to clean it up. They're going to come and prophesy judgments to clean that land, to prepare it for the northern kingdom to come in. And the northern kingdom will do their part in helping to cleanse that land, because there are going to be certain wars taking place. The Gog and Magog war, right? But they're not going to have to fight it. The Most High is going to fight them. In fact, though, he's going to turn them against each other. But he's going to draw them to the land, because he is paying blood for blood. He's repaying blood for blood. And that's why the land needs to be cleansed, because there was a lot of innocent blood shed in that land. Blood for blood. And the only way the land can be cleansed is by shedding the blood of the criminals, the persecutors. All right? And let's move on. So Hanawak and Alaya will be returning to the earth as the two witnesses to prophesy judgment in our land, but not just only for our land, but they will be prophesying judgments on the earth. The whole earth will feel their judgments. That's why when they died, the whole earth rejoiced, and they were sending presents and gifts and all kinds of, yay, they're gone, right? All around the world they were doing that, because the whole world was feeling their judgments. We have to go and take the place of Hanawak and Alaya, as they will be leaving the Garden of Odan soon to finish the ministry here on the earth. Yahweh always wants his people, the righteous ones, to occupy his garden. It was created for us. Adam and Hawa lived in the garden, and after they left, he brought in Hanawak and Alaya. It must never be empty of his kings, his prophets, and his royal priesthood. And we are his kings, and we are his royal priesthood. And Hamashiach is his prophet. He's also his king, and he's also his priesthood, his high priest forever. But we no longer have prophets. We don't need them. We have the Ruach HaKodesh to do that work. So people around here calling themselves prophets are none other than false prophets. Hamashiach warned us in the last days there will be a rise of false prophets. Okay? We don't need a man to speak on behalf of Yahweh saying, thus say Yahweh. He speaks to us himself through his spirit, his Ruach HaKodesh. If you are dependent on a man or a woman to give you thus saith the Lord, because that's what they call on, Baal, which is Baal, then you're under pagan deception and pagan worship. He speaks to us individually. That's why when Hamashiach said to his disciples, I will send you, I will not leave you comfortless, but I will send you another comforter. He is the Spirit of truth. He is going to bring into remembrance all the things that I've taught you, and new things will he, what? Teach you. He's going to reveal things to you as well. But we're dependent on these false prophets to speak to us, to say, thus saith the Lord. There have been a lot of talk amongst the online community about the second Exodus and the wilderness, where they believe that the 12 tribes of Yasharaal will experience. Just like in the day, as it was in the days of our forefathers, so it must be again, right? Well, they have part of it right, but most of it wrong. If they read the prophecies carefully, they would not be jumping to these conclusions. The 12 tribes have been divided for a long time now, since the time of Shalawam, which is Solomon's son. The northern kingdom, sometimes referred to as the house of Yasharaal, or Aparayam, which is Ephraim, or the house of Yaokab, or Yahusab. These four names denote the northern kingdom and no one else. The southern kingdom is also called by several names, including the house of Yahweh and the daughters of Sion, or Zion, or the mountain of Sion, although not all the time it is referring to the house of Yahweh. Sometimes it's referring to the actual mountain of Sion. But you have to read the scripture in its context to understand what the writer, what the prophet is speaking about. The northern kingdom is made up of 9.5 tribes, which I've said to you before, while the southern kingdom is made up of 2.5 tribes, which is Yahweh. By Benaiah, Mayam, which is the tribe of Benjamin, and half of Lewi, which is Levi. So Yahweh and by Benaiah, Mayam are considered the kingly tribes because the kings over Yasharaal came from these two tribes. Lewi is the priestly tribe. Since their division, these two kingdoms have been at war with each other. There is no love lost between these two kingdoms. The northern kingdom has been dispersed since 721 BC. Some people say 722, while the southern kingdom had been dispersed since 70 AD. The southern kingdom was still in their land, Yasharaal, when Hamashiach was born and lived amongst them. The northern kingdom was not. He came to set the captives free by ministering to them, and eventually he was slain for our sins. Hamashiach left his ministry behind in the hands of his apostles to carry on what he had started. His ministry catered to Yahweh who were living in their land, but most of all to the lost sheep of the house of Yasharaal. Remember, he said, I come but to the lost sheep of the house of Yasharaal. When he sent them out 2 by 2, all 12 of them, he said, go not to in the ways of the Samaritans. He said, but go to the lost sheep of the house of Yasharaal. So there was still a sprinkling of those people around. Okay? Hamashiach had established the new covenant with Yahweh after his death, because remember, the covenant can only come into effect, the testament can only come into effect when the testator is dead. So after his death, then the new covenant came into action. And it's extended to us today, the offspring of those who witnessed the ministry of Hamashiach. Speaking of the apostles and the people who believed at that time, there were many people that believed in him and believed in his apostles. Believe in Hamashiach, but they were under the teachings of the apostles. They didn't believe in the apostles, they believed in Hamashiach, but they also believed in the teachings of the apostles. And the teachings of the apostles pointed only to Hamashiach. The house of Yahweh bore witness to Hamashiach and received his Ruach HaKadosh. Right? We received the Ruach HaKadosh. The northern kingdom have not received the Ruach HaKadosh. All right? Who is our comforter, our teacher, our revealer. Because he reveals the truth that is hidden. Remember, Hamashiach spoke in parables. And there are mysteries in the Bible. And only the Ruach HaKadosh can reveal the mysteries and reveal what the parables are all about. He is our guide on this narrow path to eternal life. There are two paths. There's a narrow path to eternal life, and then there's the broad path to destruction. And the narrow path is so narrow that only few will find it. That's why if you're on the narrow path and you're looking around, looking for other people to join you, you will not find anyone, if anything, because we are few and far between. All right? But if you're on the broad path, you're going to look around, you're going to see multitudes. Multitudes upon multitudes. And many people think because they're on this path and there are many people on this path, they're on the right path. Not true. That's the broad way, where many will find it. But not many people will find the narrow way. It is too narrow. It is too restrictive for them. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have one foot in and one foot out. They want to choose what they want to believe. They don't want Hamashiach to have full reign of their lives. They want to use him like a genie in a bottle. They only want him when they have a need. And when they don't have a need and life is good, they put him aside. And they do their own thing. It is through him that we are receiving the revelation of Hamashiach that was once lost and or purposely distorted by lies and pagan religions. That's how you're going to be able to sift through the teachings that are out there. Some you're going to have to throw directly into the garbage. And then there are others you can actually sift through it and glean from some of these teachers. But the Ruach HaKadosh has to do it for you. It is the Ruach HaKadosh that has quickened us to realize the truth, starting with our identity and to understanding the prophecies. Who made you realize who you are? Did you go to an online teacher and realize, hey, I look like them, so maybe I'm part of them, so let me follow this teacher? And that's why we have a lot of people, they are lost under these camps. They're lost under these online channels, people that have channels, they're lost because they're listening to what these people are telling them who they are. It is the Ruach HaKodesh who confirms and affirms who you are. He's the one who should be waking you up. If you have been awakened by a man or a woman, you're not really awakened. You're not awakened. You're still sleeping. And that's why they can tell you to believe in certain things and you will gravitate towards that. You will hold on to that. I know, and I heard of people that claim, yeah, I'm awake. And they're sitting under the doctrines of false prophets, telling them, you don't need to believe in the New Testament. Only listen to what is being taught in the Old Testament. All these different lies that they're telling you, telling them. And this is because people are depending on other people to tell them the truth. When in fact you need to go to the Ruach HaKodesh. He is the Spirit of truth. When he teaches you a truth and you go online and you listen to a lesson, it either resonates within you because you've already been taught that truth, or it piques your interest and you go and you do a deeper research, and then the Ruach HaKodesh can reveal your portion in that meal, because it is like food to us. Or you can listen to it and realize this is utter nonsense and throw it in the garbage. But for you to go online and listen to someone teaching and say, hey, this person speaking truth, so I'm going to absorb everything that they're saying and I'm going to run with it. That is being immature and childish and foolish. And there are many people out there like that. So he's the one, if you're not in connection, if you don't have a strong relationship with the Ruach HaKodesh, if you're not sensitive to his spirit, then you will fall into great error. Next, he's been teaching us to reclaim our truth. Let me go back. And understanding the prophecies is the key important thing for us to understand, to know what day we're in. We need to know the prophecies. When you were in the church, did your pastor ever taught from the prophet, from the books of the prophets? They stuck mainly in the New Testament, mainly in the books of Paul. They will never venture into the Old Testament except to talk about Noah and his ark. That's the only time that they will go into the Old Testament. But they would never look at the book of Ezekiel. They would never look at the book of Isaiah. Those prophetic books that helps us to know and understand what is coming, what has happened, and what is coming. They stayed out of those books because they didn't understand what those books were all about. And they figure, oh, it's Old Testament, so it's old, so let's move away from that. When in fact, the Old Testament, the old, what they call it, the covenant, is still in effect. It was never out of effect. It was only the blood component of it that was changed. We still have to uphold the law and his commandments. Hamashiach said that many times in his word. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Why did he say that? If the laws and the commandments were done away. He said, yes, I come to fulfill the laws and the commandments. And that's how you're going to be able to walk in them. But you still need to keep them. Never told you to stop keeping them. Anyway, let's move on. Next, he has been teaching us to reclaim our true worship of Allah Hayam. Many people are still worshiping Jesus Christ, Lord, God, right? They're calling Yeshua, Yahuwah, Yeshua, all these different strange gods. Because if you know the language, then you will be right in calling his name correctly. Calling on the correct names of our Ha'aba and Hamashiach is reclaiming our true worship. Do you know that if you're not calling on his correct name, that you're profaning his name and you're also calling his name in vain? You're breaking a commandment. All right? If you're not sure, call him Ha'aba, which means the Father. Or call him Yah. But stop calling him by all those other foolish names. His true name is Yahweh, Allah Hayam. Allah Hayam means ascended glory, because that's who he is. That's the essence of who he is. He's not Elohim. He is Allah Hayam. Hamashiach's name is Yahweh. And it means Yahweh is salvation. That's what his name means. Then he has been teaching us about what? The new covenant. These things are intertwined to bring us onto the narrow path. And some people would select, okay, I know my identity, I understand some of the prophecies, but I'm going to stick with Ahaya. I'm going to stick by calling him Yahuwah, Yeshua, whatever, right? I'm not going to change that. And about this thing about the new covenant, well, we don't really know what the new covenant is, so we'll wait for the wilderness for that to happen, right? We're not going to keep the Shabbat the way how he wants us to keep it. We'll do it how the Ish people there in our land is doing it every Friday evening to Saturday evening. Although that's not our calendar, that's the Gregorian calendar. Oh yeah, that's all right if we, at least we kept a day, right? Wrong. You're breaking his covenant. He is serious about his covenant. If you don't know how serious he is about his covenant, go back and see what happened to our forefathers in the wilderness when they broke the covenant. Did he not kill them? And he will teach us, the Ruach HaKodesh will teach us how we are to keep the covenant with Yahweh. And the main thing is the Shabbat. You have to keep Shabbat. Not every month throughout the year, the Shabbat falls on the Friday evening and Saturday evening to Saturday evening. And it is from evening to evening, not morning to evening. I addressed that in another video. And the reason why it cannot be every Friday evening to Saturday evening is because we go by the moon cycle, only to know when the first day of the month begins. We don't do anything else with the moon except for the first day of the month, when we see that first sliver. And 6 days later, the evening of, we start our Shabbat. And from there we can tell the feast days. So the moon helps us to know the Shabbat, and it also helps us to know when the feast days are. And It doesn't occur every Friday and Saturday. Like right now for this month of September, my Shabbat is Friday evening to Saturday evening. Next month is going to be a different day. Last month it was Thursday evening to Friday evening. That's when the evening of the 6th to the evening of the 7th day started. But it changes. So I had to create calendars so that I can stay on top of that. So that I don't call a holy day an unholy day and an unholy day a holy day. He does not want that. It is important if you want to keep his covenant, if you want to be in covenant with him, you have to keep his Shabbat. And you have to call him by his right name. Otherwise, you're breaking his commandment. Now, these are the things that are available for us to do today. Don't tell me it's impossible to do these things. No, it's not. If you're in Babylon and you're following their system and their calendar, yes, it's impossible. But when you determine in yourself that you want to worship him and him alone, he will honor that he has done it for me. He has done it for me. I came out of the system. I'm living in a country where I can freely worship him the way how he wants me to worship him. And I'm still making a small income on the side. And I didn't even plan that. When I discovered that it was time for me to get out of Canada, because he told me, I want you out. This was in March of 2020. And that's when I realized the whole world was redded out. And I was so scared because I thought things were going to happen right there in that spot, because the dream that he gave me was so deep and so profound and real. And the dream told me, he told me from the dream, you need to get out of Canada. You need to get out as soon as the first borders open. So I was already packing before any borders were opening up. And I wasn't even thinking, okay, how am I going to eat? Where am I going to live? All I cared about is getting out. That's all I cared about. And I didn't have a lot of money either. I had a few dollars in the bank and that was it. But that was not my thought. My thought wasn't what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to wear, where am I going to live. Those thoughts were nowhere near my mind. All I felt in my spirit was this earnest desire to get out. And I left everything behind. And you know what he did for me? He has provided for me. And not only has he provided for me, he began to teach me in such a way that there's no way that if I was still in Babylon, I can learn these things. I learned more in the last 2.5 years. Actually, I would say in the last 6 months, my learning has been greatly increased. But only because I obeyed him and I came out. I had gold, sold that. That became part of my plane ticket. Some little pocket money. Because back in those days, I was also deceived into thinking I was going into a wilderness. So I had to buy different little preparation stuff, like my backpack and all these different things. Sleeping bag, tent, all these different things. So I came prepared. Not realizing, oh yeah, I'm taking nothing with me. He doesn't want us to bring a backpack with us. And because I obeyed him, He has honored me by providing for me. It is not, I'm not living in luxury. No, I'm not. I have to do without a lot of things. I had to learn to make food over a fire using wood. But I didn't mind because I wanted to learn. Because I thought, hey, well, this will be beneficial for me when I go into the wilderness. But I'm not going into a wilderness. But still, it was a great way to learn how to make a fire. It was all learning. It was all, he was slowly peeling off Babylon. You know, when you were in Babylon, you had an electric stove. Press a button and it comes on. Here, you have to make a fire. There you have toilets that flush. Here you have a hole in the ground. Right? There are toilets here too, but I've had to learn to use the hole in the ground. How many people will want to do that? So many things I had to let go. I'm talking mentally. Oh, if I was in Babylon. No, I couldn't even think that way because I didn't want to be back there. And he slowly peeled me like an onion. Layer after layer. There's no desire for Babylon whatsoever. Nothing that they have I want or need. My Heavenly Father, He provides for me. And that's the place where He wants His people to get to. And that's why you can't get there when you're still in Babylon. Whether it's the UK, Canada, America, no matter where. The system is global. Except in the pockets of places where He has placed His people. So don't tell me it can't be done. You got a car, sell it. You got a house, sell it. You got furniture and everything else, sell it. That's how you get money. You got clothes, sell them. You got jewelry, sell it all because you don't need it where you're going. Sell it all. But you people want to hold on and complain, oh, well, I don't have any money. I don't have this. I can't do that. And what am I going to do when I get there? What job am I going to do? Well, if you're going to be thinking that way, then definitely you're saying that He is not able to provide for you. Isn't that what our forefathers did? They did not say, can Allah provide a table for us in the wilderness? Did they not say that? And did that not make Him angry with them? Well, when you think that way, all you're doing is piling up the wrath on top of your head. His wrath on top of your head. And surely you will be destroyed. Stop testing the Father. So let's move on. They're available. These things are available. The new covenant is available for us today, for those who want it. If you don't want it, that's fine. You can take your luck elsewhere. You can hope, cross your fingers, cross your toes, and hope, that things will work out for you otherwise. Which will not, by the way. It's not going to happen. No. There's no such thing as luck when it comes to the Heavenly Father. The heathens and the Gentiles, they all have to live by luck. Depend on luck. But we have Hamashiach. We have Allah who tells us and He guides us and He leads us and He will provide for us. We don't need luck. Anyways, because our forefathers were there in the land and had witnessed the spreading of the gospels of Hamashiach. So we have the new covenant available to us for those who want it. The 400-year prophecy spoken to Abraham was not for the 12 tribes, but only for the house of Yahweh. Shocking. We're the last to flee from our land and the first to be regathered, but not in our land just yet. And I explained why. Because the land needs to be cleansed. The two prophets have to go in and prophesy judgment. Then the northern kingdom must go in and do their bit to prepare for Hamashiach when he comes, and he is coming with us, and then we'll be one in his hand. That is the order of things to happen. Okay? The northern kingdom in the meantime have been dispersed amongst other nations for such a long time that many of them still don't know who they are. There are some that are practicing Judaism and Christianity, and which is still forms of paganism, and others are practicing other pagan religions. It is for this reason I said that the 12 tribes are divided into the 7 assemblies that Yawachanan spoke of, which is in the book of Revelation, chapters 1, 2, and actually 2 and 3. And 6 of these assemblies are pagan religions. Only the assembly of Philadelphia is the true ministry that Hamashiach left behind. The northern kingdom is lost in these 6 pagan religions, while a remnant of the southern kingdom is found in the assembly of Philadelphia. And I covered that in part 3. Yahweh Al-Hayam is not ready to deal with both these kingdoms together as yet. He's not ready to bring them together. The southern kingdom is ready to enter into their rest, where Al-Hayam will be dwelling in their midst, because we have fulfilled our punishment. There's no more punishment for us, only for the wicked ones that will not listen. But the righteous remnant, the ones that are listening and walking in his commandments and obeying Hamashiach, we are ready to enter into our rest and receive our rewards. But this is only for those who believe in Hamashiach and are walking in obedience to his commandments wholeheartedly. This will complete the new covenant as he had promised our forefathers. So we're currently under the new covenant because of we believe in Hamashiach. His blood has atoned us of our sins. We are walking in his commandments, right? So what will complete this is when we are dwelling with Al-Hayam and he is in our midst. That will complete it, because that's what he told our forefathers in the beginning. Let's read on. This will complete the new covenant as he had promised our forefathers. If they obey his commandments and do them, meaning walk in them, then he will be what? Their Al-Hayam, and they will be his special treasure, and he will what? Dwell in their midst. It's not just he wants us to believe and walk in his commandments. He wants to be a part of us as much as he wants us to be a part of him, and we to be dwelling together, just like Adam and Hawa were dwelling in the Garden of Eden together with Al-Hayam. He wants that again. All right? The northern kingdom is far removed from being in covenant with Al-Hayam, but they too will be restored, and in a very beautiful way. Beautiful way. He has a purpose for them. That is why he will keep them here on the earth, as he has not forgotten them. No, he's going to deal with them after he's finished with us. Until the northern kingdom has come to repentance, turn away from their pagan worship, and return to him with all their heart, then and only then will they see his salvation. There will be a trigger that will literally jolt them awake, and I know that it's when they recognize that we are gone, and some will see, and they will hear, right? It's going to be news, hot news off the press. Then that is going to jolt them awake. Like, how come these Negro people that look like us are gone in these chariots? And he will perform a much faster work with them than he did with us. Yes, he will. With us, we slowly came into the knowledge. But with them, it's going to be quick. When you read the prophetic books, you have to be careful to understand who the prophet was speaking about. Many have mistakenly thought that when they read about the house of Yasharaal, that the prophet was speaking about the 12 tribes. No, not so. The majority of the time, he was speaking about the northern kingdom. I would say 99.9% of the time, he's speaking about the northern kingdom. Until Hamashiach brings the two kingdoms together and make them one, which is during the time of his millennial reign, actually from the very beginning, from his millennial reign, because we'll be coming back with him. And that's when we will be together as 12 tribes. We will remain as a divided kingdom. Therefore, many people have mistaken the second Exodus into the wilderness is meant for the 12 tribes. Not so. It is meant only for the northern kingdom. It is through this second Exodus into the wilderness on their way back to their land. That's why they have to go through the Exodus. Go into the wilderness in the second Exodus. Because they're going to their land, Yasharaal. And it's during that time that the rebels will be purged. That's how the Father is going to be able to sift them in the wilderness, just like our forefathers. So let us look at some scriptures, some verses. Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 5, verse 11. For the house of Yasharaal and the house of Yahweh have dealt very treacherously against me, says Yahweh. Now I'm pulling out these scriptures to show you when the prophet is how the prophet is using the words house of Yasharaal and the house of Yahweh, right? And he's not speaking about the 12 tribes under the house of Yasharaal. The house of Yasharaal is the northern kingdom. The house of Yahweh is the southern kingdom. If it meant that the house of Yasharaal are the 12 tribes, why then will he say the house of Yahweh? Obviously, they're the two kingdoms. So that's what these scriptures are all about. They don't really necessarily have anything to do with the chariots of Yasharaal. Jeremiah chapter 11 verse 12, for Yahweh Sabaoth, which is host, Yahweh of hosts, that planted you have pronounced evil against you for the evil of who? The house of Yasharaal and of the house of Yahweh, which they have done against themselves to provoke me to anger in offering incense unto Baal, which is Baal, meaning Lord. So every time you call that name, that title, Lord, you are not speaking about the Most High, Abba Yah. You're calling on the devil himself. And I heard people say, well, when I say Lord, when I say Jesus, they did things for me. Oh, really? Oh, really? Take a close look at what was done for you and tell me if that same situation didn't come back worse in another cycle. Because all that has happened is that a stronger demon came and cast out that demon. And now that stronger demon has planted himself in your life. Not saying he's possessed you, but he's planted himself in your life. And then he's going to invite more demons to come. So that's why you're going through so many different situations. Oh, yes, but Jesus did this for me and Jesus did that for me. But yet you're going through the same situation, but in a different format. That's how these devils work. So when you think that Jesus came and cast out this devil, or Jesus came and helped you with this situation, you're going to have another situation just down the road. You're going to have 2 seconds of reprieve, and then you're going to have a worse situation down the road. And that's because you're calling on demons. Jeremiah chapter 13 verse 11, for as the girdle cleaves to the loins of a man, so have I caused to cleave unto me the whole house of Yasharaal and the whole house of Yahweh. Again, separated, says Yahweh, that they might be unto me for a people and for a name and for a praise and for a glory, but they would not hear. And I want to pause here and I want to interject this. I don't understand that people that call themselves awakened, all right? People call themselves awakened and they're still calling on the pagan gods. I don't understand that. You know that we've been lied to. You know we've been indoctrinated in pagan religions. And yet you still want to call him Lord. You still want to call him God. And when people come to try to correct you, you don't want to hear it. I don't understand how awakened can you be? You are not awakened then. Because if you were truly awakened, you'll know that these people stole our identity and gave us in exchange their identity as their slaves and give us their form of worship in the form of Jesus Christ, Lord and God. Right? They're the ones who did it. And instead of trying to figure out, okay, who is the Heavenly Father and who is the Son? No. You still continue. Oh yeah, I'm an awakened Hebrew Israelite and I'm still calling on Jesus of Nazareth. You're not awake. Let me tell that to you right now. You're not awake. Because English is not our first language. Oborai is our first language, which is the correct name, not Hebrew. I did a lesson on that. Go check it out. Explains everything. I even got a video on me writing the letters of our alphabet. Go check it out. Be informed. You can't say you didn't know. So let me move on. Jeremiah 31, verse 31 to 33. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasharaal and with the house of Yahweh. So he's going to do it separately before he brings us together. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Matzarayim, when he brought them as a mixed multitude, all 12 tribes, into the wilderness. He's not going to do it like that again. No, he's not. Which my covenant they broke, although I was a husband unto them, says Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasharaal. Why is he only identifying the house of Yasharaal here and not the house of Yahweh? Because he has already done it at this point with the house of Yahweh. So now he's focusing on the house of Yasharaal. After those days, said Yahweh, I will put my law in their inward parts, that means their minds, and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Ezekiel chapter 37 from verse 11 to 12. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones, we know this scripture, these bones are the whole house of Yasharaal. Who is he speaking to or speaking about? The 9.5 tribes. What Ezekiel saw in the valley of the dry bones were the whole house of Yasharaal, meaning the 9.5 tribes, not the 12 tribes, the 9.5 tribes. Behold, they say our bones are dried and our hope is lost, meaning they have no moisture. They don't even have flesh on their bodies. They're just bones in the valley. Valley is a low place. Because our Elohim, he dwells only on mountains. The Garden of Eden was on a mountain. And Shalawam, the mountain of Shalawam, of course, is a mountain. Mount Horeb was a mountain. Mount Sinai, which is the same thing as Mount Horeb, is a mountain. He doesn't deal with valleys. He only deals with mountains. So if they're in the valley of dry bones, they're in a low place. And they have no flesh. They have no life. They have no moisture. They're dried because the word of the Most High, which is water to our souls, has not been present with them. They were on the pagan worship. And it drained them. It sucked their blood and their marrow and everything. It sucked the life out of them. And now they're sitting there as bones scattered. They're not even connected. They're all scattered. And let's go back here. Our bones are dried and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Cut off from whom? Yahweh. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, behold, O my people, I will open your graves, right? And cause you to come up out of your graves. I'm going to quicken you and bring you where? Into the land of Yasharaal. That's where he's going to take them. That confirms what I was saying before, that the house of Yasharaal, after he brings them through the wilderness, the remnant few that will be left will be coming into the land of Yasharaal. That's their job. They have a job to do there. Verse 16, moreover, you son of man, take you one stick and write upon it for Yahweh and for the children of Yasharaal, his companions. So the children of Yasharaal is not the house of Yasharaal. It is the tribe of Benaiah Mayan, which is the tribe of Benjamin, and the half tribe of Lewi, which is Levi. They are of the children of Yasharaal. Okay? So that's why he said that. And then take another stick and write upon it for Yahweh, the stick of Apariam, which is Ephraim, which we know is the house of Yasharaal. And for all the house of Yasharaal and his companions, meaning all 9.5 tribes. Right? This is how the Father speaks. Verse 17, and join them together in your hand. Verse 18, and when the children of your people shall speak unto you, saying, will you not show us what you mean by these? Say unto them, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, behold, I will take the stick of Yahweh, which is in the hand of Apariam, which is Ephraim, and the tribes of Yasharaal, his fellows, the 9.5 tribes, I'm going to put it in my hand, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Yahweh and his companions, right? And make them one stick. And they shall be one in my hand. My hand. No person on this earth is going to bring these 12 tribes together. No one. Okay? There are many people that are planting tents in the wilderness and thinking, oh yeah, we're going to get a head start on this thing. And we're going to build the tents for the 12 tribes. Again, I said, good luck to you. Yasharaal, which is the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, from 11 to 16. Now, this is just some additional reading to help you understand a little bit more about the northern kingdom. Okay? And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Matzarayim, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. Now here's the thing. A lot of our so-called brethren in camps are attributing the 9.5 tribes to be people that are from Mexico, from Panama, from Cuba, from Puerto Rico, and all these different nations. And when you look at them, or even the North American Indians, when you look at them, they look nothing like us. Nothing like us. And here the scripture is telling you where he's going to come, where he's going to recover them, the remnant of his people from. From Matzarayim, which is Egypt. And from Patros, which is northern Egypt. Cush, which is Africa. Elam, I believe, is Babylon. Iraq, and same with Shinar, and from Hamath. I believe Hamath is. I did that in another study. I did that in the second Exodus into the wilderness. Can't remember where Hamath is, but it's around that area again. I think either Iraq or Iran or one of those places. And from the islands of the sea. He's not talking about the Caribbean islands. He's talking about the islands around there. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations and shall assemble the outcasts of who? Yasharaal, right? So the ensign, who's the ensign? The ensign is his son, Hamashiach. He is going to be the one thing that will draw us onto him. He said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men. And he's not talking about just everyone. He's talking about his people onto me. So he's going to be the sign, the banner that is going to draw the people, his people, onto him. The outcasts of Yasharaal, who is separated from and gathered together the dispersed of Yahweh from the four corners of the earth. These are two gatherings, people, not one. They're put together in one sentence, but that does not mean that they're going to be done together. They are not going to be done together. Verse 13, the envy also of Aparayam shall depart. See what I told you? There is enmity between us and the house of Yasharaal. The house of Yahweh and the house of Yasharaal are enemies. And that's why he said in verse 13, the envy also of Aparayam, which is Ephraim, which is the house of Yasharaal, and the adversaries of Yahweh shall be cut off. Aparayam shall not envy Yahweh, and Yahweh shall not vex Aparayam. There's enmity between us. That's why he has to deal with us separately to weed out the rebels. Verse 14, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of Philistines, and this is in reference to Aparayam, not Yahweh. They shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines towards the west, which is in our land, and they shall spoil them of the east together, and they shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab. And we know where Moab is, Jordan. And the children of, and Edom is also close to Jordan. They're all in that region. And the children of Ammon shall obey them. That's also part of Jordan. Because Ammon and Moab are brothers. They're the children, the incestuous children of Lot. That's another story. And Yahweh shall utterly destroy the tongue of Matzarayam Sea, and that we know is the Sinai Peninsula. That's going to be destroyed. With his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shod. Now, which river could this be? If he's talking about the Moab and Ammon and Edom, and all that region is Jordan, then there must be the river Jordan that he is going to smite and cause them to cross over. All right? Remember, that's what they did when they went in to take their land? Yes. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from where? Assyria. And Assyria was a large region that encompassed several countries like Turkey, Iraq, Syria, Iran, and I think there was one other, I can't remember right now. Like as it was to Yasharaal in the day that he came up out of the land of Matzarayam. Right? So he's going to create a way when there seems to be no way for these people. That's why I say it's going to be a beautiful regathering for them even here on the earth, and they will be completely protected as long as they walk in his commandments. 2nd Esdras chapter 13, verse 39 to 49. And whereas you saw that he gathered another peaceable multitude to him, those are the 10 tribes. Well, it's actually 9.5 tribes, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land at the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. So this is talking about the northern kingdom when they were led away captive by Assyria before they left there. And okay, we're going to read on and see. And he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So after leaving the land of Assyria, they decided we're going to go far away. And this was the hand of the Most High doing this, because they were constantly fighting against the southern kingdom. And the southern kingdom was constantly fighting against them. Right? And he didn't want that anymore. So he said, okay, we're going to send you guys far, far, far away. And I'm going to keep the southern kingdom in their land. But they took counsel amongst themselves. Okay, verse 42. That they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. It's funny. They want to leave so that they can keep statutes. But that's okay. You go. So verse 43, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So they crossed over the Euphrates. Now, which way did they cross? Did they cross and go towards Europe? Or did they cross and went towards Africa? Okay, let's see what happens. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So he did a miracle for them. He made them cross over dry shod. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years. And the same region is called Asareth. Some people claim that Asareth is America. We don't know. They've changed the names. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, which would be the time coming. And now they will begin to come. They will be returning. He's going to draw them back. The highest will stay the springs of the stream again, not necessarily the Euphrates, because they're coming through another way. They're coming via the way of Moab. All right? That they may go through. Therefore saw you the multitude with peace. You got to kind of put it together, and it has to make sense, folks. But those that be left behind of your people are they that are found within my borders. Now, there some people, remember how Mashiach sent his disciples out, his apostles out to preach to the lost tribes, the lost sheep of the house of Yasharaal. So there were still some close by. And those are the ones found within his border. There's a border that he had created only for us, his people. And even though, you know, the land of Yasharaal is a sliver, it was a lot bigger back in the day. So even if these people are there already within the borders, they don't need to travel anywhere. No, it's the ones that are coming from very far away that he's going to bring them back into the land. All right? So those are the ones that are found within his borders. Verse 49, now when he destroys the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he will defend his people that remain. So they're going to be in the land, and this is the reason why the two witnesses need to come, because they're going to be preaching, they're going to be prophesying judgments against these people that are in the land, right? The land, even within the borders, where his people are gathered, right? And then those people, the nations that are living there in that land, he's going to destroy. And who he hasn't destroyed, they will leave and go back to their original lands. Yes, he will. He will defend his people that remain. meaning he's going to protect them. They're going to be under his protection during this whole time of judgment, like he did in the land of Matzarayam during the 10 plagues. The first 3, yes, Yasharaal had to go through them, but then the last 7, they were protected. He defended them. Verse 50, and then will he show them what? Great wonders. So that's why I said it's going to be a marvelous time for this northern kingdom. We're almost finished. Hosea chapter 7, verse 8 to 10. Aparayam, Ephraim, he has mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Now, many people use this scripture to justify why the northern kingdom is going to look nothing like us. They're going to look more Caucasian, light skin, Asian, whatever. He's not going to look like us because this scripture says that he's a cake undone, not turned. Okay. You really don't understand. He said he has mixed himself amongst the people. Right? And he is mixed amongst the people. But it doesn't mean that he is blood mixed amongst the people. There are still many of our people that look like our people that are amongst the Gentiles. And the cake not turned doesn't mean that a cake that is uncooked. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that he is mixed in with the people, mixed in with their worship, mixed in with their religions and their pagan ways. And he needs to be turned. He's a cake not turned. He needs to be turned around. Some people attribute it to just the tribe of Ephraim. No, it doesn't. It means he's speaking specifically about the northern kingdom, that they're lost in other religions. That's what that means. They're lost in pagan religions in the countries of their captivity, because that's what they are. They're in captivity. They don't even know it. Strangers have devoured his strength, and he doesn't even know it. He knows it not. Yeah, gray hairs are here and there upon him, yet he knows not. So he has no strength. That's why he's he's in a valley of, well, Ezekiel compared them to being in a valley of dried bones. He has no strength. These people, these strangers have sucked him like a vampire. He has gray hairs. He's aged. He's old. And he knows not. And the pride of Yasharaal testifies to his face. And they do not return to Yahweh, their Elohim, nor seek him for all this. Right? Now, I pull out this one scripture just to explain about the cake not turned. And it has nothing to do with the fact that our people have become suddenly Caucasian or Asian. And the reason why these tribes that are teaching this, the leaders in these tribes that are teaching this, they themselves are not our people, right? So they're teaching lies. And some of our people, the few that are our people that are teaching this, they want to mix with other nations because they just don't like our women. They don't like their women. They don't like Negro women. They want Caucasian women. They want Asian women. They want Indian women. They don't like our people. I heard one man talking about these big nose, big lip Negroes. This is how some of these wicked people view us. And they're not our people, even though they look like us. And they talk as if they are us, but they are not our people. And they try to bring disdain upon us. That's why the Father is only bringing out a remnant. All these foolish ones that are doing these things, I really feel sorry. Well, I should not say that. Well, I don't really feel sorry for them because they're not our people. No, I don't. But I do feel sorry for the people, our people, that are lost under these people. I do feel sorry for them. All right. Okay, let's finish this up. I can add more and more verses, but it would not change a person's heart if they are already doubting. Right? So if you're already in doubt, I've given you enough information with scriptures that should be able to persuade you or convince you or give you understanding. But if you are already set in your mind about what you want to believe and what you don't want to believe, I can add 100 more scriptures. It will not make any sense to you, right? It will only be for those that want to know, that are willing to accept. Okay. Or I have sufficiently proven my points using more than enough precepts within their context for those that believe and understand, right? The truth is clear and it's very evident. The only problem is that many people have believed so many other strange doctrines and false teachings for so long. Will these same people be willing to let go of what they thought they knew to learn anew? Right? Yasharaal is divided and will not be reunited as one nation again until the 1,000-year reign of Hamashiach begins. In the meantime, the southern kingdom will be regathered first by the fiery chariots to live for a period of time in the sanctuary of Allah-Hayam. Meanwhile, on the earth, the northern kingdom will be suddenly awakened by the departure of the southern kingdom. It is at this time that many will leave their lands and begin their trek into the wilderness, heading to their land, Yasharaal. This will be a treacherous trek, and this is where the rebels will be purged out from amongst them. By the time they make it into their land, it would have been cleansed by the 2 prophets who came to prophesy the judgments in the land. The land of Yasharaal will be prosperous again. Remember, there's going to be a lot of destruction as well. There's going to be earthquakes in that place because the Father is going to bring down every high place, all those buildings, all those. He's going to just bring it all down and destroy it. He's probably going to cause the earth to open up and swallow all that up too, and turn it into a desolate place, a wilderness. But he's going to cause it to flourish. All right, he will. But it's going to go back to its original form. Before the highways and the byways and the buildings and all the different things that they have there. Everything is just going to come down and be swallowed up in the earth. The land of Yasharaal will be prosperous again, yielding its might for these returning righteous remnant of the northern kingdom. That's why he said, they're going to be planting on the hills of I forgot that place. But they'll be planting and they'll be sowing and they'll be reaping, right? All these different things they're going to be doing in the land. They're going to have plenty of cattle, right? All these things they're going to have. They're not just going to magically appear right there in the land. The actual land itself is going to start growing up the trees and the fruitful trees and the things that they will need. But the actual animals, let's read on and see where they're going to come from. The house of Yasharaal. I believe all along the way, these people will acquire great wealth in the form of cattle and flocks and gold and silver and many other riches, which they will bring with them into the land. Yes, as they're walking along, if you read the book of Joel, I believe it's chapter 2, how they're going to climb up on the houses and go through the windows and all these different, they're going to just ravish the place. They're going to ravish places because all along the way as they're traveling, remember, a lot of people are going to be dying. There's going to be a lot of destruction. A lot of people are going to be leaving their homes. A lot of people are going to be dead. And a lot of these people are going to have cattle, and they're going to be goats and sheep and cows and whatnot. So guess who's going to be collecting the booty? Just like in the days of Matzorayim, when they went to the people in Matzorayim and said, "Give us," and they didn't have to finish that sentence. Well, I made that up. But they went to the Egyptians and they pilfered the Egyptians. And all that was payment for all the work that they did for the last 2 years, 200 years, 210 years to be exact, that they were not paid for. So they pilfered them, and they got their money with returns. So this is what's going to happen to us again. Well, speaking mostly of the northern kingdom, they're going to get their returns. They're going to get great substance, because all along the way they're going to be collecting things. They're not coming home empty-handed. No, they're not. It will be at this time that the northern kingdom will be dwelling in the land without walls. You heard that before. And yet no one will be able to do them harm. Abba will have his wall of fire around them. His glory will be around them. Until that day when he is ready to expand his boundaries and will bring Magog, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya to war against the house of Yasharaal. And we know how that war is going to end. It's not really a war. He's just bringing them into a trap, because he's going to cause them to turn against themselves. And guess who's going to reap the booty out of it all? Who's going to plunder them? But the northern kingdom. They're going to have more wood. They're going to have so much wood to burn, they wouldn't have to go and look for wood. Right? They're going to have wood to burn for 7 years. And they'll be burying them for 7 months. But that's blood for blood. But more about this will be found in another lesson, a more in-depth lesson about the 2 kingdoms. But that will be not the 2 kingdoms. It would actually be, because I changed the title, the second Exodus into the wilderness. So it's not called the 2 kingdoms. It's actually called the second Exodus into the wilderness, because this here, the Chariots of Yasharaal, deals with the northern kingdom, and the second Exodus deals with the Chariots of Yasharaal deals with the southern kingdom, and the second Exodus deals primarily with the northern kingdom. So I did them as 2 separate lessons, because really truly it will be an extremely big lesson to do them together, and they're not really together anyway. So this is the ending of this lesson. I hope you glean, or I hope that you're able to glean something from this series, and I have many more series to come. Hopefully we will I will get it all done before the time has run out. I'm feeling deep within myself that time is running out. That's why I've changed the format of my teaching, and I just have the scriptures. I don't have time to sit and write out my exhortation or whatever. I'm totally dependent now on the Ruach HaKodesh to speak through me. He is always speaking through me, and I tend to repeat myself, so I don't really necessarily need to write out my exhortation, my explanations, right? Because he already told me what, or taught me what it is that I am seeing in the Word. So when I see it again, I tend to say it and then go back to my exhortation, and it's written there, and it sounds like I'm repeating myself, and I don't need to do that. And he's showing me, you don't need to do that. You don't need to write out everything. Just write out the scriptures, because time is drawing very, very close to an end, and I want to get some more lessons. I have quite a few more lessons to put out there. I've started them, but I just need to finish them. And then recording is one thing, and then I have to upload, which is another thing. It takes forever to upload, because the Wi-Fi is not very strong, so it takes a whole day to upload a 2-hour lesson. That's why I break it down into bite-sized chunks, right? Anyway, I can go on and on and on, and I wish you Yasharaal, I wish you Yahawada, and I really believe that, and I'm hoping that at some point in time that people from our Northern Kingdom will come across these lessons. I will leave them available on the internet, on YouTube. I also have a website that will always be up and running because it's free, and hopefully someone or a few people will get their hands on these lessons and understand what's going on. They will not be fearful, but they will be hopeful, and they'll be full of anticipation of the great and wonderful miracles that will be coming their way. But they have to obey the commandments. They have to walk in his straight and narrow path, believing in Hamashiach, keeping covenant with him, and throwing away the idols, the idolatry, the pagan worship. Throw all that garbage away and focus only on him. Okay, so that's the ending of this wonderful lesson. I really had a lot of fun doing this. It was such an eye-opening experience to realize about these chariots. And he taught me this earlier this year because, like I said, I was also one of those people that was expecting a second Exodus. That I was going to be in the second Exodus. There will be a second Exodus, but it's not for us. Okay? But I was listening to some of these teachers, and I'm like, yeah. And, until he began to teach me that no, it's not for you. Right? So I don't have to worry about what I need to take, because that was my biggest concern. What do I need to take? How many clothes do I need? And all these. He said, you don't need to take anything because you're not going in a second Exodus. So I learned that this year, and honestly, it wasn't instant. It was a gradual learning, and until I would say within the last 2 months or so, maybe even 3 months, that he gave me the fullness of this understanding, right? Okay, so I believe that I've said all I needed to say, and I hope that you enjoy the lesson, and that if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. Hopefully I'll get the message before. I am not going to say I'm staying behind. I'm not. I'm leaving. So hopefully, you will be able to get a message to me. If not, pray and let the Holy Spirit, let the Ruach HaKodesh guide you into all truth. He will guide you if you ask him. Okay? And I will say Shalawam, Shalawam, Shalawam.